Hello, and welcome to the Business Impact Analysis Essentials course. We are thrilled to have you here as part of our free tier learning experience, proudly provided by Interdon, as part of our mission to make resilience education accessible to everyone. My name is TJ Barrett, and I'll be your course author for the Business Impact Analysis Essentials course. So, a little bit about me. I'm an Army veteran. I love film as an art form. I thoroughly enjoy learning about all history in general, and I'm all about education, as you can see. I love teaching. It's definitely a passion of mine. For work, I'm currently a full-time senior security engineer and the CEO of Interdon, an educational platform that teaches resilience. I hold a bachelor's of science in cybersecurity, and I have 16 years of experience in multiple domains of information security, including security operations, security and risk management, security architecture and engineering, and finally, of course, a separate agnostic domain applicable to any industry, organizational resilience. My background in organizational resilience is grounded in hands on experience, primarily focused on conducting business impact analyses, or BIAs, leading business continuity exercises, stress tests, performing threat assessments, and developing and supporting incident response and business continuity and disaster recovery plans. All right, that's enough about me. Let's move forward to the first module. Now, I'm excited. We're diving headfirst into the course. We have section 1 of module 1, Introduction to Business Impact Analysis. What is a business continuity management system, and what is business impact analysis? So the first question we're going to answer is, what exactly is a business continuity management system, and what is a business impact analysis? So business impact analyses, which we will refer to as BIA in this course, are carried out within the activities of a business continuity management system, also known as a BCMS. Think of BCMS as a business strategy that helps companies prepare for and respond to business interruptions and disruptions. ISO 22301, which stands for the International Standard Organization, is like a global playbook for BCMS and guides organizations on how they can stay up and running during a crisis. ISO defines BIA as the process of analyzing the impact over time of a disruption on the organization. The BIA provides a structured approach to evaluating all activities in an organization, as well as the impact on the organization should these activities become disrupted, along with the resources that are needed to deliver these activities. In essence, the BIA is a story told through the data it gathers. The data reveals how your organization functions, what it relies on, and what's most critical when an interruption or disruption takes place. With that in mind, the BIA serves as a foundational step in developing effective continuity plans. Now that you understand what the BIA is and where it fits within a BCMS, let's look at why it matters to every organization, regardless of size or industry. Moving forward, we have section 2 of module 1, why BIA matters for any organization. The BIA matters because it enables organizations to make informed decisions about risk tolerance, resource allocation, and recovery priorities. Without this analysis, leaders may rely on assumptions when preparing for disruptions, resulting in overlooked dependencies, misaligned recovery efforts, and longer downtimes. By quantifying the consequences of interrupted operations, a BIA ensures that continuity planning is driven by actual business needs rather than guesswork. This clarity supports smarter investments in resilience and helps safeguard both reputation and revenue under pressure. Now, I want to pause here and quote Jen Easterly. the former director of the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, who I heard speak at a conference last week. She gave a profound take on the importance of preparing for disruption. Disruption will happen. You have to plan for it, prepare for it, exercise for it. You need the right processes and communications in place so you can respond, recover faster, and emerge stronger. It requires a mindset shift. Not if disruption happens, but when. The more you architect, prepare, and train your people for it, the better you'll be able to bounce forward. I believe Director Easterly's quote is a phenomenal outlook on disruption and why your business should execute a tool like the BIA. I mean, we have officially entered the dawn of AI, cyber warfare, and robotics. We exist in a unique time, and so does your organization. So, with that said, disruption of business is not a matter of if, but when. And that's why the BIA matters. All right, next up is Section 3, Understanding Disruptions, Threats, and Vulnerabilities. In this section, we'll cover the foundational concepts of disruptions, threats, and vulnerabilities, and how they tie into the BIA process. A disruption is any unplanned event that interrupts normal business operations. This could range from a cyber attack or a natural disaster to something as simple as a delayed vendor delivery. What matters most is how the event impacts an organization's ability to perform critical functions. Threats are potential malicious actors, events, or circumstances, intentional or unintentional, that could exploit vulnerabilities to cause harm or disruption. Vulnerabilities are weaknesses that make your organization more susceptible to threats. Examples include outdated systems, lack of redundancy, or reliance on a single individual or vendor. When a threat exploits a vulnerability, the chance and impact of disruption increases. Now, let's take a moment to look at a real world example that ties all three of these risks together: the Heathrow Airport incident that occurred in March of 2025, where a substation fire caused major disruptions. Here's a brief synopsis of the event. A fire broke out at a critical power substation serving Heathrow, triggering a terminal wide power outage. This led to the grounding of dozens of flights, halted baggage handling systems, and caused chaos for thousands of travelers. In this scenario, the threat was the potential for electrical failures due to aging infrastructure. The vulnerability was the reliance on a single power substation without adequate backups. And the disruption was the actual fire that led to flight cancellations, delays, and a significant impact on travelers and operations. So, through this example, you can see how a threat combined with a vulnerability can lead to a significant disruption. Keeping these concepts in mind helps us understand why it's so important to address each of these risks in our planning. Now, let's explore how the BIA fits into the big picture of business continuity. BIA is the structured process of identifying your critical operations, assessing the impact of disruptions, and determining what resources are needed for recovery. Understanding threats and vulnerabilities helps ensure that BIA is rooted in reality, not assumptions. In short, this module shows that disruptions don't happen in isolation. They're the result of external threats interacting with internal vulnerabilities. The BIA helps you pinpoint where you're most exposed and what matters most to keep running. We have arrived at our final stop in Module 1, Section 4, What a BIA Collects. Here is an overview of what's collected in a BIA. First, we have all of the business processes that exist in an organization. Then we have three types of recovery timeframes: recovery time objective, RTO, recovery point objective, RPO, maximum tolerable downtime, MTD, and resources, which are applications, systems, equipment, third party services, etc., required to complete the business processes. Let's begin with the first and most fundamental item collected: the business process. Module 2: Identifying Business Processes. In the first section of Module 2, we will explore what qualifies as a business process. Business processes are the activities essential to the organization's operations. Business processes belong to the business departments within the organization. Identifying these processes builds resilience, as the organization must know what needs to be prioritized to maintain functionality and minimize downtime. Without this data, it is difficult to plan recovery strategies or allocate resources where they matter most. This ensures the organization can focus its recovery efforts on functions that, if disrupted, would cause significant financial, reputational, legal, regulatory, and operational impacts. To identify and document business processes effectively, we must understand who owns them and who is accountable for providing accurate information. That leads us to Section 2: Department Ownership and Accountability. To begin a business impact analysis, you first need to identify business processes, and that starts at the department level. Each department owns specific functions. Ownership means they're responsible for explaining how those processes work, what they depend on, and what happens if they're interrupted. To understand who provides the business process information, we'll continue building on the Heathrow case study. Let's create two fictitious business processes: a flight operations process and a passenger services process. At Heathrow, the process leads for these might include the head of airport operations, the passenger services manager, or the ground handling supervisor, individuals responsible for day to day execution and coordination of these services. Ownership is accountability, and accountability ensures someone, those managers or process leads, provide accurate data and participate in the BIA. Without clear ownership and accountability, critical processes can be missed or misunderstood. By engaging departments early and assigning responsibility to a process lead, you ensure the BIA reflects how the business actually runs, not how it's assumed to run. Once ownership is established, the next step is gathering detailed information about how each process operates and what it depends on. In the final section of this module, we'll explore how to gather process data. Once departments are identified, the next step is to collect business process details from the process lead. There are three main ways to gather this data: interviews, surveys, and templates. Interviews are the most effective for high impact processes. They allow for real time clarification, follow up questions, and deeper insight into process dependencies and impacts. Surveys work well for broader data collection across multiple teams. They're faster and scalable, but depend on well designed questions and clear guidance. Templates provide structure. They standardize the way information is collected, covering inputs, outputs, dependencies, peak periods, and recovery needs. Whether used in interviews or sent as standalone forms, templates help ensure consistency. Choose the method based on the process's complexity, criticality, and the people involved. Often, a mix of all three works best. With process data in hand, we can now begin analyzing recovery needs, starting with recovery timeframes and their role in prioritization. Congratulations on reaching the end of Module 2. We're almost halfway through the course, so keep up the fantastic work. You're doing great. Section 1 of Module 3, Understanding Recovery Timeframes and Impact. In this section, we'll be exploring Recovery Time Objective, RTO. Recovery Time Objective, also known as RTO, is the first recovery time frame assessed and should be collected from the process lead immediately after the business process has been documented. RTO, by definition, is the acceptable time that a business process or system can be offline before it impacts operations. It helps define recovery priorities and guides the timeline for bringing systems and processes back online after a disruption. Section 2, Recovery Point Objective. Recovery Point Objective, also known as RPO, is the second recovery time frame assessed and should be collected from the process lead immediately after the business process has been documented. RPO is the maximum acceptable amount of data loss measured in time. It determines the point to which systems or data must be restored to ensure minimal disruption. For instance, if the RPO is 6 hours, backups must be frequent enough to ensure no more than 6 hours of data is lost during an outage. Defining RPO ensures that data protection measures, such as backups, are robust enough to meet organizational needs and minimize data loss during a disaster. In order to complete the recovery picture, we need to establish the maximum time a process can be down before serious harm occurs, which is the recovery time frame known as maximum tolerable downtime, or MTD. Section 3, Maximum Tolerable Downtime. Maximum tolerable downtime, also known as MTD, is the third and final recovery time frame assessed and should be collected from the process lead immediately after the business process has been documented. MTD is the estimated maximum time a business process or system can be unavailable before it causes severe harm to the organization and its customers. It represents the outer boundary for recovery efforts and helps set realistic RTO and RPO targets. Recovery timeframes are only part of the story. Next, we'll assess the consequences of disruption by looking at impact types across multiple dimensions. Using the previous case study we did on Heathrow Airport, let's use this real-world inspired example to help bring these concepts to life. Just a quick note. The recovery timeframes and impact estimates here are fictional and used for learning purposes only. We're going to continue to look at Heathrow's flight operations business process and passenger services business process as a case study, since that disruption in March of 2025 showed how fast things can go wrong at one of the world's most relied upon airports for international transit. So for RTO, we're saying that if something goes wrong, we need to get those flights back on track within 4 hours. That's the sweet spot to avoid total chaos at the airport. When it comes to RPO, we really don't want to lose more than 15 minutes of data. That means all those passenger bookings and flight schedules are super fresh and up to date. And finally, MTD is like our absolute limit. We've got 24 hours to get things back to normal before it turns into a major headache for everyone involved. We've made it to the final section of Module 3, Impact Types. In this section, we'll break down the 5 core impact types assessed during a business impact analysis: financial, reputational, legal, regulatory, and operational. Each of these impact types should be documented alongside every business process identified in the BIA. This helps clarify what's at stake if that process is disrupted. Now let's unpack these impact types to get a better understanding of their value to the organization. Financial impact includes lost revenue, increased costs, penalties, or missed sales opportunities. It's typically the most quantifiable and quickly draws executive focus. Reputational impact affects how customers, partners, and the public view your organization. While minor outages may be tolerated, breaches or prolonged failures can cause long term damage to trust and brand value. Legal impact involves risks like contract violations, litigation, or liability. Processes tied to legal obligations, such as client deliverables or regulated service levels, carry higher stakes. Regulatory impact relates to noncompliance with industry or government rules. This can lead to audits, fines, or sanctions, particularly in sectors like finance, healthcare, and utilities. Operational impact refers to how well the organization can continue its core functions if the process is disrupted. Ask yourself, can teams still perform their roles? Are services still delivered to customers? Additionally, consider interdependencies. Are there upstream or downstream departments that would be affected if this process stops? A disruption in one area can ripple across multiple functions, creating broader operational strain. Each impact type provides a unique lens into process criticality. Combined, they help the BIA reveal what truly matters, beyond just financial outcomes, enabling more informed recovery and continuity planning. Now that we've explored impact, we'll shift our focus to what keeps processes running, the applications, systems, and services they rely on. Section 1 of Module 4, Mapping Resources and Dependencies. In this section, we will be exploring applications, systems, tools, and third-party services. To fully understand a business process, you need to identify what it depends on to function. This includes applications, systems, tools, equipment, and third-party services, collectively referred to as resources. These resources are often taken for granted until they're unavailable. Think about airport check-in. That requires not just staff at the desks, but also a functioning check-in system, power to the monitors, and reliable network access. Coordinating flight departures might depend on real-time scheduling software, ground communication systems, and air traffic control data feeds. Even something as basic as updating the airport's digital signage relies on both the control interface and a stable electrical supply. When one of those resources, like power, fails, the entire chain of operations can grind to a halt. During the BIA, each business process should be mapped to the resources it needs. Resources are the final pieces that are collected from the process lead. This step is critical because it reveals hidden dependencies and helps determine recovery priorities. If a resource goes down, every process that relies on it is affected, which is why accurate mapping is essential. In short, the goal here is to document which tools and systems keep your processes running so you know what must be restored quickly when disruption strikes. Beyond systems and tools, many processes depend on people and handoffs. Let's look at how to identify both internal and external dependencies. Section 2, Identifying Internal and External Dependencies. Not all dependencies are systems or tools. Some are relationships. In this section, we focus on identifying internal and external dependencies that affect how processes function. Internal dependencies are connections between teams, departments, or internal workflows. For example, passenger services at Heathrow may rely on the flight operations team to provide updated departure times. If one team is delayed, the entire process stalls. External dependencies involve outside entities, vendors, service providers, partners, or utilities. These might include power providers or IT network vendors. If operations are disrupted, your process could be too. It's important to pinpoint where handoffs occur, both inside and outside the organization. These are often where delays or failures originate. Understanding these dependencies helps build more accurate impact scenarios and recovery plans. It also clarifies where contracts, SLAs, or contingency arrangements might need review. With processes, impacts, and dependencies mapped, it's time to use your BIA results to make informed decisions, starting with prioritizing recovery efforts. Section 1 of Module 5, Using BIA Results. In this section, we will be exploring how to prioritize recovery efforts. Once the BIA is complete, the real value comes from how the results are used. And the first step is prioritizing recovery efforts. Not all business processes can be recovered at once during a disruption. BIA data helps you determine which business processes must come back online first based on time sensitivity, impact severity, and business process resources and interdependencies. The more critical the process, the higher it moves on the recovery list. However, prioritization isn't just about restoring business functions. It also guides decisions about where to allocate limited resources, like IT staff, backup systems, or manual workarounds, in the hours and days after an incident. By using the BIA to rank business processes and their supporting resources, your recovery plan becomes focused, realistic, and aligned with actual business needs, not assumptions or guesswork. Prioritization only works if it's communicated clearly. Let's explore how to share BIA findings in a way that drives action and understanding. Section 2, Communicating BIA Findings. Once you've completed the BIA, it's important to communicate the findings clearly and effectively. I highly suggest focusing on summarizing which processes are most critical, how quickly they need to be restored, and what resources they depend on. The goal for communicating findings is to make the results understandable to different audiences, from executives and department leads to IT and recovery teams. It's also important to use simple visuals or summaries to highlight key insights, such as impact severity and process tiers. Avoid technical jargon and emphasize the practical takeaways, what matters most, where the risks are, and what needs to happen next. Most importantly, reference that the BIA is not a one time exercise. It should be shared, acted on, and updated regularly as the organization evolves. Once findings are shared, one of the next steps is to turn those insights into plans. Let's see how the BIA data directly supports the development of strong business continuity plans. Section 3, Supporting Business Continuity Planning with BIA Insights. A strong business continuity plan depends on accurate, relevant data, and that's exactly what the BIA delivers. BIA Insights clarify not just what should be protected, but how to protect it. They reveal timing tolerances, resource needs, and operational constraints that business continuity strategies must account for. This allows planners to develop targeted procedures like alternative workflows, backup communication paths, or relocation strategies that reflect real business conditions. BIA results also strengthen coordination across departments by setting clear expectations around roles, dependencies, and recovery sequencing. Ultimately, the BIA bridges the gap between risk awareness and actionable continuity planning, turning insight into readiness.